So if you know Dana Murphy, you've undoubtedly heard her say, "It's all good."
Oh, yeah.
She is known around town for her relentless positivity and the genuine way she enjoys connecting people. In her second career as an elementary school teacher, she currently teaches 6th grade at Hillcrest School here in Downers Grove and is in her 15th year. Dana will tell us about a time in her life when her well-cultivated positivity took a hit and how she emerged determined to fill her own bucket and follow her heart. Dana Murphy.
How's this?
Perfect. Good.
I think it's okay. Yeah. So I'd like to start too by thanking Dale and Cindy for asking me to do this. When I was first asked, I'm like, oh, this will be great, no problem, everything's great. And as Dale just stated, this was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. Here we go. Oops. Go one more.
This one or that? There? Here?
Oh, so you guys took out my original one. Okay.
Oh,
That's
there.
right. Okay, that's right. We're good. We're good. We're good.
We're good. That's right.
It's all good. Good evening, everybody. Many of us are here. We are similar in age, middle-aged women, most of us, who are near, or dare I say, past the halfway point in our life. Some questions have to be asked. Have I done what I want to do? Am I who I want to be? Have I gone where I want to go? Have I seen what I want to see? If you look at life like a race, when you get to the halfway point, you should be thinking, what is my strategy for the rest of my life? I actually started thinking about this when I was in my mid-30s. I was a wife, a mother, 2 young daughters. I was working in a corporate job that I had had since college graduation. There was stress in my life, as there is with all of ours. I was traveling, working late, carrying a pager that would frequently vibrate. Remember those days, ladies? While I was trying to balance my work and home life. Despite a successful career, there were components of the job that were just bringing me down a little bit. Guilt about leaving the kids at daycare, exhaustion, difficult customers, sales quotas. I just wanted to find that balance, more of a balance in my life than I had. I'd always thought about teaching through the years. The deeper I got into sales and the business world, the more I realized that teaching was a better fit for my personality and for me. I knew I wanted to inspire. I wanted to make more of a difference. I wanted to impact children in a positive, life-altering way. In retrospect, this need to transition was the beginning of my bucket list. Teaching and influencing young people was something I wanted to do with my life before I kicked the bucket. How could I move from sales to teaching? This is what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be. I knew that the transition would take a long time, money, energy, and I needed support. But as soon as I knew what my direction was going to be, I had a plan and I could almost feel a sense of relief. As I progressed in my teaching pursuit, in those last 2 years at work, I was lighter on my feet. I was moving toward my plan. Sorry. I was moving toward... Ah. Oh my goodness. As I progressed in my teaching pursuit in those last 2 years, it took me 6 years to complete my degree in teaching, but I owned my plan. I was getting close to quitting my job. I was going to student teach and then started interviewing for teaching positions. Our kids were in school, the time was right, and I was ready to go. then wham. Life smacked my family and me in the face. A lot of us can relate to this, I know. At age 58, my mother, Diana, was diagnosed with uterine cancer. It was a turning point in our lives. We usually expect our lives to progress in a certain direction, and then a very unexpected circumstance may cause our world to stop, forcing us to reconsider the choices we have to deal with. Focus changed. I quit my job, signed up for my student teaching requirement, 3 months I had to do that, and then spent as much time with my mom and family as possible. I wanted to help her navigate her journey after this diagnosis and support her through all the painful, devastating treatments she had to endure. My career bucket list, ironically, gave me one of the best gifts possible, to be able to spend more time with her, my dad, and family during those 18 months she fought cancer. I was also able to spend more time with our young daughters. That was wonderful. Unfortunately, my mom passed away at the age of 60. Those 18 months were absolutely priceless. I had some difficult days after the passing of my mom. My world seemed to stand still while the rest of it kept going. People didn't know what to do with me. I was a little bit out there. The positive, upbeat person I always strived to be went on vacation for a while, and I dealt with situational depression. Thankfully, it was short-lived. 4 years after leaving my corporate job, I accepted a teaching job at my current school, and I'm starting my 15th year teaching 6th grade, and I've never looked back. Bucket lists after, are we okay? Bucket lists after my mom's passing seemed less important. The next 12 years were busy. My husband and I were lost in the shuffle of raising our kids and trying to stay close to our family and friends. I would occasionally create some casual fun to-dos on a whiteboard in our hallway off of our kitchen. Next thing we knew, our daughters were both in college. We were enjoying our college visits at our time as empty nesters. Life was really good. And then, another turning point. June 30th, 2016. My life changed with a phone call. I had uterine cancer. The same diagnosis my mom had, the same disease that took her in 18 months. I was in absolute disbelief. I was 52 years old and I had cancer? In another ironic twist, my mom had given me one last gift with her passing. Because of her diagnosis and struggle, I and my doctors had been hypervigilant about any concerns with my health. Because of this, my cancer had been caught early, very early. But I did not know that for several months. All I heard was uterine cancer. My mind flashed back to my mom. My new bucket list was very short. I wanted to survive. There would be no plans for me that summer except for figuring out how I was going to be a cancer survivor. My dad, who had become paralyzed with shock during my mom's illness, turned into a cancer research warrior for me. He was so cool. We spent hours researching together that summer before my surgery. My mom's journey was in the back of both of our minds. My family and so many friends were so incredibly supportive. I was fortunate to find a wonderful surgeon at Northwestern, who I consider one of the bright lights in the world. I felt 100% confident in her plan and skills. Two and a half months later after my diagnosis, the cancer had been removed. It had been caught so early that I didn't even need chemo or radiation follow-up, just frequent follow-up visits. Today, just after 3 years, I'm still luckily cancer-free. After this, my bucket list took on a very different meaning. It was as if I was in a race against time. Gratitude had become and still is my favorite word. I was given a gift of time, and I am not going to waste it. Life for everyone can change in an instant. You want to pursue your bucket list now when you are healthy and you have the means to do it. My bucket list has been important to me for some time, but its structure and focus has changed through the years. I started one in a journal I have. I wanted the words to be in ink, not pencil, ink. I wanted to be sure that the items on the list were going to be achieved and crossed off. I wanted to start plotting how I would tackle my bucket list. The depth of it has changed in the last several years. I've always loved to travel. Many of the items on my list tend to relate to travel in various ways. I not only want to accomplish things that are important to me, but I want to savor that journey. I love my husband. He's extremely supportive, but a bucket list is not important to him at this stage of his life. He's waiting for retirement. I always thought that I would work on my bucket list together with him. I'm realizing that there are things on my list he doesn't want to do. I've also realized that it's okay for me to pursue some of those items without him and with other family, friends, and just me instead. After all, it's my bucket list. Be generous with your bucket list. You never know who's ever going to be interested in joining you along the way. A bucket list can look different to you during your life. You need to make sure your bucket list does not become a to-do list. Instead, it needs to include items that will provide you with ways to achieve a greater fulfillment. For me, my bucket list is the starting place for adventures that will lead to many detours. Detours that will allow for self-reflection and priceless experiences. I enjoy putting things on a list, planning for these things, and of course doing them. These are a few items I have crossed off my bucket list lately. July 2018, bucket list item, visit the lavender fields in Provence, France. Our youngest daughter, Jenna, was doing an internship in Florence, Italy for 2 months. My husband, Rob, and I, along with our daughter, Kristen, were able to visit Jenna at the end of her internship. After the 4 of us traveled in Italy, Jenna agreed to accompany me on an extended trip to France. Kristen and Rob had to go back to work. I rented a car. We were like Thelma and Louise. One way to get to our destination, and I did look this up, this pronunciation, Salt, France, was to drive up, over, and down Mont Ventoux, a popular mountain route used during the Tour de France. What a detour. I was white-knuckled the entire drive, and I was happy we made it down the other side alive. Jenna was patient and understanding. We laugh about that journey, and we think fondly of time we spent on our destination, the beautiful lavender fields in Provence. My daughters are here. Lavender has always been my favorite scent. I've always dreamed of being in the middle of the purple fields, and I always tried to imagine how intoxicating the scent would be. It was absolutely amazing. Currently, I'm working on a trip, maybe not as to the full extent, but a trip with a few friends to see the lavender fields on Washington Island in Door County next summer. My bucket lists are sometimes more simple and everyday. July 2019, bucket list item, kayak in DuPage County. I had visited a friend of mine this summer. She took me kayaking and inspired me to add local kayaking to my bucket list. I gathered the details of where to go in DuPage County, started talking to some friends and family, and ended up kayaking 6 times since the end of July. There's a group of us who are even joking around about creating an informal kayak club next summer. Sometimes my bucket list items are things that have been in my heart for a long time. We have 2 rescue dogs, Bella and Sasha, little white fluffs, who've really impacted me. July 2019, bucket list items. Volunteer at the National Mill Dog Rescue in Peyton, Colorado, and visit the John Denver Sanctuary in Aspen. I spent a week in Colorado visiting my sister Darcy and her family, and she was just so incredible. She's very spiritual, and she was so supportive of including my bucket list items in our schedule for the week. The National Mill Dog Rescue is about 30 minutes east of Colorado Springs. This organization rescues dogs that have been bred in puppy mills their entire lives. My 14-year-old nephew, Davin, ended up joining me on this adventure. He wasn't too excited to go initially, but Mom and Dad convinced him that it would be a nice day to spend with Aunt Dana, volunteering. We had a blast. It was a little, I don't know if he was gonna go. Davin was so inspired that he's trying to convince his family to volunteer on a regular basis. For me, my dream of volunteering at this amazing organization was realized. The John Denver Sanctuary. My sister and I planned to travel to Aspen. My sister said, and where are you taking me? What is this? I had heard about the place years ago. Darcy and I got to Aspen, located the sanctuary, and walked over to it. It was amazing. It was so beautiful. It's free. It's wonderful to go to. It was such a special experience. Darcy was really pleasantly surprised. We also had some laughs. I was taking pictures of some aspen trees and ended up falling into a pond in the process. Luckily, my cell phone barely stayed on the edge of the pond as I dropped it. This trip led us to a beautiful hike to Maroon Bells. Great memories that came out of the bucket list. Although I do think about my mortality a bit when I add to my list, my hope is that it is something that makes me happy and allows me to dream of my next adventure. Do you have a bucket list? Whether you call it that or not. Are there things you'd like to do in and with your life? Are you following your heart? If not, what are you waiting for? According to author Gretchen Rubin, the days are long, but the years are short. What are you going to do with the rest of your race so that you savor the journey and more fully live your life? Keep it simple. Choose what makes you happy. Find your way to get inspired. Don't wait. It's your turn. Live fully.
Thank you so much, Jana. First of all, we're so glad that you are well. So, yeah. And I love that your bucket list truly is what brings you happiness and joy. You know, in this Instagram impressing other people world, it's very admirable. But I made something, one of your quotes was very post-worthy, I thought. My bucket list is the starting place for adventures that will lead to many detours that will allow for self-reflection and priceless experiences. You should post that, Dana. Does anyone have any questions for Dana? And you can talk to her certainly afterward. So.
What else is on there after the lavender fields next summer?
I would like to go to Spain. I want to get involved more with a local rescue called Starfish. It's in Batavia, and I've already started doing that on weekends, helping to promote that cause. I don't know if this is going to happen, but I'd love to learn how to play guitar. That's what we were talking, a friend of mine and I were just talking about that.